and welcome to Is Your Dog Expecting Your Baby? Firstly, congratulations are probably in order if you're watching this DVD. And secondly, congratulations for being a wonderful pet dog owner and for taking the time out of your busy day to sit down, watch this DVD and then get up and do the exercises. This DVD has been designed to take the stress out of the experience of bringing your baby home to your dog, and also to help your dog cope with the new arrival and really adore your new arrival through the exercises that we'll be doing. Firstly, why should you be listening to me? I am a certified dog behaviour consultant. I am a certified behaviour consultant with the International Association of Animal Behaviour Consultants, and I'm also a full member, a certified member of the Association of Animal Behaviour Professionals. Both organisations have assessed me and approved me to deal with problem behaviours or issues that I have also been studying dog behaviour for the past 12 years, and over that 12 years it's become quite a common thing to see dogs that are stressed around children, and also to see dogs that just really aren't comfortable in being in the household with their own family members, small children and young babies. So over the past 12 years, while we've seen these problems and while we've tried to work with the problem after it's occurred, it is so much more difficult to try and fix a problem behaviour than to prevent the behaviour from occurring in the first place, which is why I started running the workshop Is Your Dog Expecting Your Baby about 4 years ago now. The workshops are really popular and we get lovely stories back from the owners where the dog has gone through the workshop and everything's gone well. It's really important to get your dog ready for the baby. It's one of the most important things you can do. I'm sure you've already been asked several times, are you rehoming your dog? And I'm sure you've gritted your teeth several times and said, no, my dog will be just fine with my baby. And they will be. Working through the exercises in this DVD will help your dog prepare for the baby and will give you more control over the situation, so your dog's happy and safe, you're happy and safe, and your baby's happy and safe. So the best way to use this DVD is to work through the 4 different chapters separately. We have 4 chapters. So the first chapter is introducing you to dog behaviour so that you can understand the subtle signs that your dog might show when they're beginning to feel a little bit uncomfortable, with the goal then that you'll step in and prevent your dog from feeling any more distress so that they don't need to panic. The second section then is a variety of training behaviours that you should teach your dog now, so that your dog then will be a lot easier to handle and a lot easier to control around your baby. Simple things like teaching your dog to leave it, so you can teach them to leave the bottle, or teaching your dog not to jump up, so that they don't jump up when you're carrying the baby. All of these exercises will help make your life easier in a few months' time. The third section of this DVD focuses on how to prepare your dog for the baby. So this is the really important part that you should be introducing now. And then definitely in your 3rd trimester, you should really work on chapter 3 and go over it literally twice a day to help to make sure that your dog is completely comfortable with the baby that's coming. And then the 4th chapter is what do I do when I bring home baby? So we'll look at the safest and most intelligent way to introduce your dog to the baby. We'll also talk about what your dog needs to have to help support it through the early few weeks period. And then we'll have a quick little chat about what behaviours are appropriate and what behaviours are not appropriate when your dog and your baby begin to start playing together. So the best way to use this DVD is to watch it now from chapter 1 to chapter 4. Eat your popcorn, enjoy it, have an open mind. Science tells us that you'll only retain about 7% of the information that I do give you in this DVD the first time you watch it. So then what I want you to do is start working on the training in section 2. Ideally in trimester 1 and trimester 2, you should be really building your training with your dog on a daily basis to ensure that they understand what you want from them. And then section 3, the 3rd chapter, I want you to really focus on that towards the end of the 2nd trimester and the start of the 3rd trimester, continuing right up to the day the baby's born. And then in the couple of weeks coming up to bringing home baby, you really focus on chapter 4. Another good tip would be, after you've watched this DVD and taken your notes, invite everyone else who's going to have a role to play in the baby's life to come and sit down and watch the DVD with you. Whether it's aunties and uncles, grandparents, close friends, anyone who's around your dog and your baby at the same time should also be aware of how to deal with your dog when they're also dealing with the baby. So sit back and enjoy, watch the DVD through. If you do find that you're having any questions or you're having any difficulties with the training, you can email me on info at creedonsdoggydaycare.com. So info at creedonsdoggydaycare.com, and the email address will be at the back of the DVD. So enjoy! Welcome to Chapter 1, Understanding Dogs. Why are we watching this? It is vital that you understand your dog. Chances are we're going to talk about a lot of stuff in a moment that you didn't know, and your dog has been showing you these signals and you're not listening. When dogs show us they're uncomfortable and we ignore them, they're then forced to up their communication, which usually will go to a growl, and then often they'll get in trouble, which is not the right thing to do. So we're going to teach you what to do now. I'm going to give you a human example, okay? If I, which I don't like, I'm in a queue at the airport and someone stands very close to me, I'm going to show them some signs that I'm uncomfortable. First of all, I'm going to use avoidance. So when that person comes very close to me, I'm going to turn my back and ignore them. I might even step away. I might move away. But I'm going to do things to avoid that person. Ideally, if they pick up on my communication, they then will give me a bit of space. If they don't give me space and try to engage or try to come even closer to me, I'm going to do some displacement activities, which will show that person that I don't want to engage with them. So, like many of you, I'll pull out my phone and I'll start sending a message, or I may put my headphones in. These are displacement activities to try and displace this person and get them away from me, show them that I don't want to engage. If they still don't listen, I may start showing some fear signals, so I may get a little bit panicky and just watch them alertly. My face might get tense, I might start becoming a little bit jittery, I might start panicking a little bit. That's because I'm starting to become afraid, because I've asked for space and they haven't given it to me, so I don't know what's going to happen next because they're not speaking my language, my human body language. Finally, if they don't listen to me and if they don't pick up my avoidance signals, they don't pick up my displacement signals, and they don't see that I'm afraid, I'm going to have to protect myself. So I'm going to maybe do some karate on them. I'm going to do something to protect myself because I'm afraid and no one's stepping in to help me. Now, if I do some karate or do some shouting at this person to protect myself, in my opinion, I'm well within my right. And hopefully you'll agree with me too, and hopefully if you do find it annoying when people come really close to you in the queue at the airport, you'll also agree that I was within my right to do what I've done. And that's, to me, that's fine. Now the problem is, dogs are doing this all the time and we don't listen. So we're going to look at some signaling that you'll see in your dog that's going to show you that they're trying to avoid something. They're trying to show displacement signaling where they want everything to calm down and they want to be left alone. They're going to show fear signaling when they are afraid, and then they're going to show self-protection signaling when you don't step in, so they have to protect themselves. So looking at avoidance behaviors first of all, first thing we're going to look at will be avoiding eye contact. So a lot of the time, if the dog doesn't want to engage with the baby, they know it's there, they're not stupid, they can smell better than us, they can hear better than us, but they're looking away. It means that they don't want to engage with the child. I've seen loads of people following their dog around with a little kitten to say, come on, look at the kitten, you haven't even seen it. They have seen the kitten, okay? So if they're looking away and they don't want to look at what you're showing them, they don't want to see it, they're not comfortable. You want to step back and start pairing whatever it is that they're not comfortable with something they are comfortable with, like treats. So you can then show them the little kitten and toss a treat, and show the little kitten and toss a treat. Pretty soon they'll love that kitten.
Hey, what's up everybody? This is my lovely little puppy Macy. She's not really a puppy anymore, she's a grown dog.
Next thing your dog might do when they want to get a little bit of space and want to avoid something that's stressing them out is you'll see the ears pinned back. Often the ears are turning back because they're trying to look for a route to escape, and they're also pulling their body parts away from whatever's upsetting them. So again, you may come home with the baby and see the ears back. The dog doesn't want to engage, so give them space.
for some reason or another, she really
position in the animal world.
Then Pedro makes a move that shocks everyone.
Next thing you'll see from a dog that doesn't want to engage and doesn't want to interact with what you're showing them is a head turn. So they literally turn their heads around. And unlike what one client thought that dog meant, it doesn't mean give me a kiss on the cheek. It means leave me alone, go away. Same as what we do.
Jackson, what is this? What is this? Did you chew this book up? Did ya? Are you gonna look at me?
Next thing that your dog might do if they're a little bit stressed is actually move their body away. Now what you do really need to remember, especially if you have an older dog or a dog that you do know has pain issues, a lot of dogs, if they're in pain, actually physically getting up and moving away is a painful thing to do. So make sure that if your dog is arthritic or is that little bit older, that you go to your vets before the baby comes home and before the baby becomes mobile, and make sure that they're on good pain relief. But if you do see your dog getting up and moving away from something, they really don't want to interact with that. Another thing you might see with the getting up and moving away is really slow movement, like we might do if we see a spider. And that's showing you that the dog is really not comfortable but really wants to escape. So if you see that, remove whatever's upsetting them. Next up, we're going to look at displacement behaviors. These are really tricky things to understand because they're things dogs do when they're totally fine, but in context, they're actually not fine. So as soon as you put on the baby crying noises and you see some of these signals from your dog, that is overwhelming your dog and you want to go back and either turn the volume down or have the music in the crying noises in a different room. You want to bring down the impact that stimulus is having on your dog so that they can then learn to cope. So with displacement signals, a lot of them that they do, we also do. So when dogs are a little bit stressed, they'll start scratching. And we do it too. So have you ever had a conversation with someone that you don't really know well and it's an awkward conversation and you notice that you're scratching but you don't have fleas? That's because it's your body subconsciously trying to tell the environment, I'm fine, but you're not fine. So dogs do it too. So you may notice that all of a sudden your dog starts scratching like crazy on its collar, even though it's the collar it's been wearing all of the month and it hasn't upset the dog to date. That's a sign that your dog isn't coping and is trying to just do something else to distract itself from whatever is going on. We'll have a look at a video. Another little subtle thing that you might miss from your dog when they are a little bit uncomfortable is sniffing the ground. Now, of course, they will sniff the ground if there's something interesting there to smell. But if they're a little bit stressed and not comfortable with what's going on in the environment, they may start sniffing the ground then to try to tell the thing in the environment, leave me alone, I don't want to engage, I'm not interested, I'm fine, I'm fine. So you may walk in with a brand new baby mobile and it starts making all these funny noises and your dog just starts sniffing the floor even though you know there's nothing new there to sniff. Your dog's not comfortable with the baby noises. So blinking, how are you meant to expect to understand that blinking means your dog's stressed? I don't expect any of this stuff to be something you already know, but blinking is a good sign that your dog is uncomfortable and that they're trying to just displace themselves from whatever is going on in the environment they don't want to engage. So you'll see a lot of excessive blinking, a lot of slow blinking, and a lot of kind of squinty eyes. And it's in context, so if something new has come in the environment and your dog is avoiding it and then is doing a lot of this blinking, that's your signal to know that the dog's not comfortable. We need to help work on them with that.
Wow.
First training run, but nothing is.
Bad boy.
You can't have them too sharp today. Oh, bent out of shape a little bit through coach's corner, but looking good.
Bad boy.
Patrick Yarbin now into our sight line as he only has a couple of turns and a couple of...
Now, a tap out is something that you'll see all over the internet of cute dogs feeling guilty. That's not what a tap out is. A tap out is where the dog throws itself on its back and acts all squirmy and wormy and vulnerable, showing its belly. That dog is similar to me walking down a dark alley, feeling threatened and handing over my wallet as quick as I can. It's me saying, just take it, I don't want to be hurt. So when you see a dog doing a tap out, rolling over and exposing its belly, in a situation where maybe they're getting in trouble or something frightening has come into the environment, that dog is really upset. They're not guilty, they're upset. So take out whatever's upsetting them. Now, of course, if your dog rolls over for its belly to be scratched, that's totally fine. But generally you'll see a tap out with avoidance. So the dog may have moved away from you, you approach, it then rolls over on its belly. That's a tap out. That dog's afraid and doesn't want you to hurt it.
Who did this? Huh? Is this you, Noah?
So lip licking is another one. So all of a sudden if your dog licks its lips, it's stressed. It's in context. So you take out a packet of dog treats and they start licking their lips. Happy days, everything's fine. If something comes into the environment, the dog tries to avoid it and all of a sudden you'll see a lot of lip licking and you'll see it probably with head turns or eye contact avoidance. That dog's stressed and it's upping its level of signaling to really tell the environment, leave me alone. Humans do it too. Start watching your friends when they're stressed.
A little bit, and let's
Go sit down now. Give it.
Sure it's recording? No, it's recording. No, I missed that one.
Okay.
Sure, I was. Hi, there she goes.
She's going to a shake off there too. And even come right in close to her. Here comes the shake. Come on, scruffy shake. Okay, good. Okay, now I'll do her nails. Okay, stop that and start again.
Next, we're going to look at fear signaling. So your dog has tried to avoid what's upsetting them. It's tried to tell the environment, leave me alone, ignore me, I'm fine. Now you still haven't stepped in to help them, so they're going to start showing you that they're really starting to panic while they're afraid. So when a dog is panicking, on a scientific level, its sympathetic nervous system is taking over, which is your fight or flight mode. So when your sympathetic nervous system is taking over, you're impulsive, you're emotional, and you're quite reactive. So you're just going to do things. You won't think it through, because thinking takes time, and that could get you eaten in the wild. So you're just going to react quite impulsively. So if you start to see signals from your dog, such as panting when they haven't been running around, drooling when there's not food in front of them, or a lot of pupil dilation, maybe if your dog has blue eyes, you'll notice the pupil dilation, increased heart rate, they might get a little bit more jittery. All these signals are showing you that your dog is starting to panic and you really need to step in now before it gets any worse.
Sit down, Scooby. Roll over.
After your story yesterday. He's a Mastiff, right?
He's a Dogo Argentine.
Oh, okay.
So he's an Argentinian Mastiff.
Okay,
yes.
okay. You're gorgeous. You're gorgeous. Oh, I'm so glad you're okay.
An easy to notice signal with the fear signaling signs would be moon crested eyes, we call them, where the dogs are so stressed that their facial muscles pull the skin back from their eyes, and again it's something that we do when we're stressed. Or they may be afraid that you're going to hurt them, so they won't take their eye off the monster, so again you'll see the whites of their eyes. In either case, you need to remove whatever's upsetting them.
Where'd you get the socks? Where'd you get those socks? Where did you find the socks? Hmm?
So self-protection is where things get dangerous. Up until now, your dog has moved away. That didn't work. They started to show the environment, leave me alone, leave me alone. That didn't work. They then showed the environment that they were starting to get really afraid and leave me alone. That didn't work. So if your dog still feels like it's under threat in the dog's head, so they may not be logical threats to you, but to the dog they're logical threats, then they're going to start stepping up and protecting themselves. Often this will happen if the dog is trapped and doesn't have the option of escaping, or if the dog's in a lot of pain so it hurts to escape. So when we look at self-protection signals, again you'll often see them in a grade, so most dogs won't go straight for a bite unless they've really been ignored or really been punished for asking for help, which we saw in the earlier videos. So initially, when a dog is really at the end of its tether and it's starting to warn you that things are going to go bad, they're going to stare. So they'll do a good hard stare at whatever's upsetting them. That's your last warning to say, hey, buddy, get out of here.
Get the test started here. Hey, Macy. See, the key to it is...
So next they'll do a lip curl. So a lip curl is where the dog will lift their lip and show their teeth. We'll have a look at some footage, but what you need to remember is generally, if the dog's offensive pucker, which means that it's kind of like a kiss, the teeth are shown, but the gums are forward, you'll generally see the ears forward too, and that dog means business. They're saying, hey buddy, get out of here. Whereas a defensive pucker, where the dogs pull the lips right back, and you'll see all the front and back teeth, generally the ears will also be back. That dog is saying, please leave me alone, I don't want to bite you, but I will if I have to. Either cases, you want to move away.
She's not like me. And today, I'm going to see how close I can get my hand in or around her mouth without her biting me. Alright, I'm just going to scoot the chair.
So after a lip curl, or even in conjunction with a lip curl, you'll often hear growling, where the dog is telling you, you're not listening to me, I want you to leave me alone, or I want you to take this away from me. I want the environment to move away the monster. When you hear a growl, never punish it. Never punish communication, because that's like the story from earlier where I'm in the line at the airport. If I was to turn around to that man and say, move away, you're too close to me, and if he was to give me an electric shock or a wallop of a belt, I'm not going to feel comfortable next time to ask him to move away, so I'm not going to feel comfortable with him in my space still, so I may go straight to my karate or whatever defense mechanisms I'm going to use. So if you punish a growl, all you're doing is you're muting the growl, so you're muting the communication, but you're not changing the dog's fear. A growl is good. A growl is a sign from your dog that you, human, have screwed up and haven't been paying attention to what's going on, and I'm about to do something I don't want to do, but I'm giving you a warning. So you praise the dog, good dog, sorry for screwing up, come on, take you to another room, and I now go and phone the behaviourist who's going to come and help me teach my dog to like the man in the high-vis jacket, whatever it is.
Alright. Okay, I'm almost there. Okay, I was at the tip of the nose.
Hey! Who's a good dog? Oh. You want to share that? Come on. Oh. Is that good?
So after a growl, chances are you'll get a bark. You might get a dog that goes straight to bite, you don't know, but a lot of the time you'll hear a bark and that's the dog telling you, oi, buddy, really leave me alone.
So I'm gonna
After a bark, you might get a snap. So you might get a light snap or an air snap where the dog will bite near to you but won't actually make contact with you. And after that, you will get a full-on contact bite. So this escalation shows that dogs don't bite out of the blue. They'll give us all these signs. And if we start listening to these signs early on, your dog doesn't need to escalate. You can call for help, or maybe if it's something mild, with the use of treats, you can help your dog to like the man in the high-vis jacket. But by listening to the early signals, one, you're showing your dog that, yeah, these subtle signals work. I'll help you if you give me subtle signals so they don't need to escalate. And two, you're preventing the dog from feeling like they need to control themselves and they need to go straight to bite because nobody helps them. So listening to these signals from chapter 1 are vital when it comes to taking home your baby. It's vital when it comes to all the training that we're going to be doing, and it's vital for the training where we're introducing your dog to the sounds and the smells and the baby related items. If you see any of these signs that your dog is uncomfortable around whatever the new buggy, it's showing you that the dog needs more help. But it means that you can then teach your dog through treats that the buggy is a nice thing to be around, so that when the baby does come home, your dog doesn't fear the buggy. What's really important with all these subtle signs is that you do something about it. Because over and over and over again, I've had people come to me that say, oh, that dog, he hates the child next door, but he puts up with her. Or my dog hates being in the car, but sure, he puts up with it. Or the dog hates the stormy weather, but he puts up with it. That's fine, all well and good. But the dog doesn't like the child next door, the dog doesn't like the car, and the dog doesn't like stormy weather. Trigger stacking is where too many things that you don't like come together. So it's similar to the phrase, the straw that broke the camel's back. You just can't cope anymore. So imagine putting that dog into the back of the car with the child from next door with a storm going on. Something's gonna go wrong. But if you had stepped in earlier and helped your dog like that child and helped your dog love being in the car, when you put your dog in the car with the child and the storm happens, all the dog has to deal with is the storm. He's happy enough to be with the child and happy enough to be with the car. So whenever you see these stress signals from your dog, you can change how they feel around whatever is upsetting them so that that then doesn't add to any other triggers. So with chapter 1, I want you to revise it regularly ideally throughout your dog's life and throughout your life with dogs. It's something that you need to learn as a skill to see these signals. Once you understand them and once you become good at listening to dogs and speaking dog, you can then help your dog by preventing any incidents from occurring. I hope you enjoyed chapter 1 and I hope you learned a lot. So welcome to chapter 2. For chapter 2, you're going to need your treats. So in chapter 2, we're going to show you how to train your dog different behaviors that are going to come in handy when the baby comes home. First thing we're going to do is no jumping, and we're going to use Meg. So we want to teach Meg not to jump up. This is really important, obviously, when you've got your bump and you don't want a big dog knocking onto it, but also when you're walking around carrying a baby, you don't want the dog jumping at you because that's stressful. And dogs a lot of the time do want to see what's up in your arms. So it's important to teach your dog early on not to jump and to stick with that new training so that when the baby does come home, your dog now knows he's not allowed to jump. So there's a couple of stages to this exercise. Good girl. The first thing I want you to do is what I call the aeroplane game. In this game, we're teaching your dog keeping your bum on the floor is good, jumping up is bad. So what we do is we tease the dog with a treat, tease it around their heads. If they jump up, we'll tell them and pull the treat away. So we're telling them, no, don't jump up on me, and bad things happen if you jump because the treat will disappear. And if they stay sitting with the bum on the floor, they get the treat. So we'll have a go with Meg. So come here, sit. So good girl. We need to make sure that they do get it right as much as we can. So if they're very jumpy, you'll try and get the treat into them quickly before they don't jump so that they do understand what you want from them. So, good girl. She's starting to get it now. She's keeping her bum on the floor. When they do start to get it, you can tease them a little bit more by putting the treat far behind their head or bouncing it around a little bit more. Good girl. Sit. So far behind her head is going to make her jump more. And then we'll give her an easy one. And then the bouncing as well. So come here, Meg. Good girl. Sit. What a good girl. So you want to do the no jumping training quite regularly. Anytime you're in the kitchen and the dog jumps up to try and steal your biscuit, let that be a cue for you to grab a couple of dog treats and remind them, bum on the floor is good, jumping is bad. Good girl. Lying on the floor is even better. So the next part of the no jumping exercise is to teach you what to do when your dog does jump. If you come in the door and your dog jumps up on you, or whenever your dog is playing around they jump up on you, what you want to do is teach them that jumping is the wrong way to get attention and sitting on the floor is the right way to get attention. So you can see if they'll jump up on you. Hi, Meg. Hi. Turn your back when they jump so you're taking away the attention. Ask them to sit or lie down, and then the trick here, sit, Meg, is to bend down to your dog to give them the attention. Because if I stayed standing and started giving attention, especially with a small dog, they're more inclined to jump back up on me. So make sure that when they do get their attention, you're bending down to their level. So I'll show you again. So you come home from work, hi Meg, hi, good girl, and she's excited. If she jumps, turn your back, bend down to her level and give her attention. What you can also do if you want to be super strict with it to make sure your dog really understands if you've got a bad jumper is when they do sit down and you give them their attention, as soon as they break the sit, you disappear and you tell them no again. So the dog learns that they have to stay in a long sit to continue getting attention. So I'll show you. Hi Meg. Hi. Good girl. Come here. Hi Meg. Hi. Sit. Good girl. That's okay. Good girl. Only if she stays down will I give her attention. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. And as soon as she breaks it, I'm going to tell her, and I'm going to disappear again. Good girl. Good girl. Meg, sit. Good girl. So you want to keep them in the sit so that they're not jumping all over you and all over the baby. The final part of no jumping is a management exercise. So you don't want your dog jumping all over you, but similarly, you don't want your dog to learn to jump all over other people too, because they might be holding the baby. Sit. Good girl. So it's no good to have one rule for you and another rule for your friends and family, because if your dog is allowed to continue to jump on your friends and family, then they'll jump on your friends and family when they have the baby. So what you want to do is to manage the situation. You can hold your dog by their pelvis to stop them from physically jumping on people. If you want to get up off the couch and do this, you can, but if you look up at the ceiling, you tilt your pelvis forward. So when the dogs jump up, they'll tilt their pelvis forward by holding onto their pelvis, not physically and not strongly and not lifting them off the ground, but supporting their pelvis. They think they can't jump, so they just don't jump. And it works pretty much all the time, but what you just need to be careful about is that you pair it with treats initially, so your dog likes being held in that position. So we'll do a little demo with Meg. Come here. So I'm going to drop treats on the floor, and while she's eating, I'm going to give her the treats and hold her. I'm just holding her in the armpits, and I'll let go when she finishes the treats. Because what we're doing is we're conditioning her to feel good, to enjoy the treat experience, while her pelvis is being held at the same time. I'm just holding her in under the back armpits so you can feel all the little veins and arteries back there too, and it's just again to support her. So we'll show you again. Drop the treats on the floor because it keeps the dog standing, and while she's eating the treats, you can do a couple. I'm going to hold on to her pelvis. As soon as she finishes the treats, I'm going to stop, so that she associates being held around her bum, really, with getting treats, so that she doesn't fear the feeling. Come on, Meg. Good girl, good girl, good girl, and stop, so that she enjoys it. So that's your management tool. So when you do have friends and family coming in the door, you can take a hold of your dog, good girl, and she physically can't jump up on your guests while you have a hold of her. Now, good girl. So that's our no jumping exercise. The main thing with no jumping is that you're consistent with it. So it's no good doing no jumping training Monday to Thursday, and then dad comes home from the pub on Friday and encourages all this jumping. It's just going to confuse your dog, and they're not really going to understand what you want from them. So consistency is the key with all training. So the next exercise we are going to do is crate training. Crate is the most amazing thing that you could have when you're bringing home a new baby. A crate is your dog's safe haven. It's their bit of peace and quiet. It's their little spa. It's where good things happen. And it's also where you can put your dog where they can be safe and you can deal with the baby. So we do crate training here a little bit different. What we want to do initially is we want to put amazing treats inside in the crate, but not let the dog in. So we're going to keep the door closed while we put some treats in, and hopefully Meg is going to be interested and she'll want to get into the crate. At home you could have warm chicken and cheese and beef and all sort of nice smelly things for the dog, but keep it locked inside the crate until you feel that they're interested and excited and want to get in. So once they want to get in, open the door and let them in. That's step one. Step two of crate training is telling your dog to go into bed. So what you want to do is toss your treat in And every time you toss the treat in, tell your dog, into bed. Meg, into bed. And leave the gate of the crate open. Good girl. Into bed. What your dog is now learning is that when they're told into bed, get into their crate. Come on. Good girl. Once they're happy going in and out of their bed, I want you to start putting a couple of treats into the bed, close the door, and when they finish the treats, let them out. Come here, Meg. So I have 3 little treats here. Into bed, toss the 3 in, let her go in, close the door, and when she's ready to come out, we'll let her back out. So once she's mastered that, and once she's happy to go in and stay in there for longer, for 4 treats, 5 treats, 6 treats, all little pieces of her dinner, then we can move on to the next and final step, where we give her a long-lasting treat inside the crate. So something like a nice chew treat, or a stuffed Kong, or maybe a stag bar, something that's going to take a while for them to chew on, but they'll enjoy chewing, is going to help the dog feel like every time I'm in my bed, into my crate, nice things happen. And this is where you start introducing the closing of the door. You can also start doing this at night time, so leaving your dog with something that's going to be safe, so a stuffed Kong with just nice pasty food in it. That way you can leave them unsupervised with the stuffed Kong, put the Kong inside in their bed, close the door, and off you go to bed. Chewing releases dopamine and calms dogs down, so by the time they've finished their chew treat, they're going to be exhausted and off they go to sleep. So, Meg, into bed, and close that door. She'll then lie down and become comfortable and enjoy her treat. And that's crate training. The next exercise we're going to look at is what to do when your dog has something you don't want them to have. And this is going to happen. Dogs will love to pick up dirty nappies, I promise you that much. They'll also love to run off with things they're not meant to have, such as new gifts for the baby, or even if they're doing it at the moment with your socks and underwear. We want to teach your dog that when they have something that they shouldn't have, they should be happy and want to give it up. The problem is, far too often dogs get in trouble after they give it up. So you manage to take the sock back off and tell the dog off. They now know that it's scary and it's silly to give up items because bad things happen. What we want to do is we want to teach the dog that if we take something off them that they like, they'll get something equally good, if not better, in return. So they should happily hand over their items. What you want to do is allow your dog get chewing on something that they enjoy, such as their rawhide or their stuffed Kong, something like that. Then secretly get a couple of really nice treats or pieces of chicken, approach your dog, ask them to drop. If they don't drop immediately, put the smelly treat under their nose and take the item that they then drop from their mouth because they want the treat. Give them the treat and give back the item so that your dog learns that even though they've given up the item, doesn't mean it's gone forever. And then after 2 or 3 repetitions of drop, sniff the treat, take the original item, you then on the final attempt can toss the treats away so that you have the item they're not meant to have and they've run off for their treat, so they've half forgotten. So we'll give it a go with Meg. So she's got her chew toy. Drop. Good girl. And I can take it. Good girl. And then I'm going to give it back to her. Good girl. Meg. Drop. Good girl. Now she's already dropped it, so we'll give it back to her again. Sit. Good girl. What's important is that she learns that she'll always get it back. Drop. Good girl. Final time I'll toss it. And then I can always walk away with this if I want, and it's done safely. The The next part of our training is leave it training. And the reason this is really important is because you want to be able to tell your dog that certain items are not for them. So bottles and soothers and child's toys, your dog needs to learn to leave it so that they know not to take it, so that they don't go off and chew up the bottle. What we want to do with this exercise is reward the dog whenever they ignore the item we want them to leave. So what I want you to do training wise is start gathering up the bits and pieces that you need for your baby, such as your bottles or your soothers or your toys, and start teaching your dog now that these are leave it items. When you're not training, make sure these items are out of reach so that you don't turn your back and your dog has a good old chew of the bottle. But the main goal is that your dog understands now that they're not allowed to have items, so that when the baby arrives, they're not associating the baby's arrived, so all of a sudden my toys are gone. So we'll show you the exercise. What you want to do is show your dog the item. So maybe it's going to be a bottle and you want to put it down near the dog. If the dog goes to sniff it or take it or play with it, you just remove the item. Good girl. So as soon as she goes to take it, I'm removing it. Good girl. Once I'm able to put the item down, I'm going to wait for her to take her attention off the item. When she does that, I'm going to tell her leave it, because that's what we want her to do, and I'm going to reward her. Good girl. Leave it. Good girl. I'm going to leave the item there, and then if she takes it, I'll move it away. So you're going to repeat that until you can put the item down and your dog doesn't go over to take it. Once you're pretty confident that your dog will leave it, you can then start requesting it. So when you're requesting the behavior, you're saying it in advance of expecting the behavior. What we were doing up until now is we were basically telling the dog what they were actively doing. So when they took their attention off, we were telling them that you have just done a leave it. Whereas now that they've understood how to do a leave it, we're going to start requesting it from them. So we always do that in training. First of all, when you're teaching a baby to clap handies, you don't turn around to a 9-month-old baby and say, clap handies. Every time they do clap handies, you tell them clap handies, so that they start to associate doing this behavior means clap handies. And then once they form an association, you can then ask them to clap handies and they'll clap handies. She won't clap handies, but she might leave it. So you work on stage 1, where you're telling your dog that they're doing a leave it every time they take their attention off the leave it item. Stage 2 then is requesting the leave it. Leave it. Good girl. So, the final piece of training is to teach your dog that they shouldn't... So, what we're going to show Meg now is that she's not allowed to have access to a certain room. So this is really important to teach your dog that they don't have free access to the nursery, because you don't want your dog going in there when you're not supervising. So teaching your dog that they're no longer allowed in that specific room means that you can feel that bit more confident that your dog's not going to go in there when you're not watching and things will get a little bit messy. What we're going to do is we're going to use this gate as a door, because this means you can see the inside and the outside at the same time. And every time Meg attempts to follow me in, I'm just going to use my body to walk her back out. Once she crosses the threshold, I'm going to tell her out, because that's the behavior I want her to do, cross the threshold, and I'll reward her. If she tries to come back in, I'll do the same thing, guide her out, tell her out, and give her a treat. So the best way to do this is naturally, just keep walking into the child's bedroom as normal, and if the dog follows you, shield them out. So, okay Meg? Good girl. Out. Good girl. Meg? Meg? Out. Good girl. Out. Good girl. Out. Good girl. Now that she's starting to pick it up a little bit, I'm not going to treat her every time. I'll treat her when she chooses to stay out. Out. Good girl. Out. 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 And repetition is the key. Out. Good girl. If your dog is used to having constant access to the nursery, this will take a bit of time because they'll have to understand that they're no longer allowed into that room. But being consistent with it and having these little training sessions will help your dog understand what you want from them. Out. Good girl. Out. Good girl. So I'm teasing a little bit so that she will try to come in so that I will teach her to go back out. It's repetition, repetition, repetition with everything when it comes to training. That's why we need so many driving lessons when we're learning how to drive a car. Good girl. Out. Good girl. Good girl. So this is just the very first session. You'll repeat this over and over and over again until you'll find that as soon as you walk into the nursery, the dog doesn't follow. Good girl, Meg. Okay, so we're finally getting to the really important part of bringing baby home. Obviously this is the part that you don't want to mess up, so that's why you want to practice it over and over and over again, so that the very first time your dog meets your baby, it's no big deal. If it's no big deal, the baby will continue to be no big deal, and the dog will be happy and relaxed in the baby's company. So, what you want to do now, as early as possible, is get your doll, get your car seat, and get your dog used to greeting the baby. What we want to do when we're introducing the dog to the baby first is keep your dog safe, keep baby safe, and keep everybody else safe. So what we recommend is that when you introduce the dog and the baby the first time, you're sitting at the dinner table. By sitting at the dinner table, you'll be able to turn the baby, and protect the baby from either side. So you're sitting here, you've got table on either side, you're in your chair, and the only access that your dog has is this small area here or this small area here. By doing this, if your dog does get a little bit excited or jumpy, you can protect the baby and you can take the dog back out of the room and try again once they're calmer. Remember, the whole reason you have this DVD is to get your dog prepared, so you have to do it with the doll first. By using the doll, you're allowing your dog make the mistakes that they will make, except you're doing it in a safe and stress-free situation. So by introducing your dog to the doll repeatedly, when it does come to the day that you're introducing the dog to the real baby, this will be a boring training exercise that they're used to and that isn't any big deal. The only new thing is that all of a sudden the doll is now moving. So we'll have a little demonstration, but just once again, you have the baby or the doll in their travel seat on the table. You have your chair square on with the doll, and you have a small area that the dog can come and say hello. We'll show you this as the first step, and then with the next step, what we want to do is allow the dog smell the baby. When it comes to allowing dogs actually get in contact with the baby, they're allowed sniff, they're not allowed touch. So videos where you'll see dogs licking the baby or maybe sticking their nose into their faces, that's not okay. The dog shouldn't really care about the baby. The baby isn't food, of course, the baby isn't a toy, and the baby isn't something they should really care too much about. So when it comes to the stage that you're allowing the dog smell the baby for the first time, again, you're at your chair, you're at the dinner table, and you're secure. You can take your baby out. Ideally, the baby will still be wrapped in a blanket, and you can allow the dog simply just have access to the baby's bum area wrapped in a blanket. So you've got your feet tucked in, you've got your hands tucked in, you have the baby close to you, and your dog can come and sniff the baby's bum. If the dog gets a little bit too hyper, and the baby goes back. You can just simply turn your back on the dog. If the dog remains calm, they can sniff for a little bit longer. But what you're looking for is you're looking for the dog to get bored. So if the dog becomes a little intense, take them away. If the dog loses interest, reward them the instant they lose interest, and then put the baby back and give your dog a treat. If your dog is interested but isn't too overly excited, you can give them something nice to chew on, so they can come, say hello, and then you can give them maybe a stuffed Kong or a rawhide chew, something nice that they can lie down on the floor, enjoy a nice chew, and feel calm and relaxed in the presence of the dog or in the presence of the baby. Now, good girl. Good girl, Meg. Good girl. If they don't take much notice, that's okay. You don't have to force the baby into your dog's face. Good girl. Who's this? Who's that? Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Praising your dog calmly around the child or around the dog is ideal because you want your dog to feel happy and safe when the baby's around. You don't want them to think that they get in trouble around the baby. Isn't that right? Good girl. Who's that? Who's that? So if the dog is remaining calm and you want to let them say hello, again, take the baby or the doll initially out. Keep the paws, keep the hands and legs tucked in and just allow access to the bum. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl, Meg. So calm sniffing is fine, she's just investigating like it's a new object in the household, but you don't want her to become overly excited like it's a toy or like it's food. Do you want to say hello? Come here. Good girl. Sit. Meg. Sit. That'll do. Good girl. So a calm dog around a calm baby is a calm mom. Good girl. Now, Hamish is going to be a bit more excited, which is why having the table is ideal. He likes to jump, so this is where the jumpy dogs at home will be that bit more difficult, but we have to make it realistic. So if he jumps, we'll turn our back on him, and if he stays calm and stays on the floor, we'll praise him. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Good because he's quite excitable, we'll give him a moment to calm down. If you feel that the dog's a little bit out of control and isn't listening to you, so they won't sit or they won't do basic instructions, then take them out of the room, wait till they calm down and start again. Hamish, sit. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. So he's aware and he's interested, because this is just something new, but we want him to think that it's not an interesting new thing. Good boy. Now again, because when you have an excitable dog, they will make mistakes, using the doll initially, of course, is the safest way to do it and the best way to train your dog how to act around the baby when the baby does go. So we'll take out baby George, and again we're going to keep the fingers and toes tucked away. Good boy. Good boy, Hamish. Good boy. Good boy. That's nice. He's interested, he's coming and having a little sniff, but then he's losing interest quite quickly and he's leaving again. That's perfect. Good boy, Hamish. We don't want your dog to fixate on the baby, because that's something that you may need to get professional help about. So if your dog is fixating and is a little bit obsessed with the doll, phone a trainer and just make sure that you get it addressed before the baby arrives. Hamish, can you say hello? Good boy. Good boy. And we'll put the doll back. If you do have more than one dog, when you're doing this training, you always do it one dog by one dog, and as they get disinterested in this training game, you can then start doing 2 dogs together. But the golden rule is then, once the baby does come home, it's straight back to one dog at a time. Most of us who have more than one dog know that if there's something that the dogs are interested in, let's pretend you drop a sock on the floor. If one dog is sniffing it, when the other dog comes over, chances are the first dog will grab that item and run away. And that's something that there's a very small risk of happening with the baby too. So if there's more than one dog, they should only ever be one-on-one with the baby until after the first, say, 2 to 3 weeks, or until you know for definite your dogs have no interest in this baby. So it's the same as putting down, for most dogs, if you put down a bottle of fairy liquid, they're not really going to care about it. So you want to get to the stage that the dog doesn't really care about the baby, and then you can allow them in the room together, because that means at that stage the baby isn't a high value object that they're going to try and steal off one another. So until the dogs are really calm around the doll, keep one dog and one doll. Until the dog's really calm around the baby, one dog and one baby. And it's the easiest way for you to manage the situation then as well. Now that you've safely introduced your dog to the doll and you've repeated this exercise and your dog has lost interest in the exercise, you can start pairing the doll with the sounds of the baby crying. So on YouTube you can access audio of babies crying, and you can always email us at info@credonsdoggydaycare.com and we can send you out a file. And the best thing to do is hook that up to your phone so that you can then place your phone in with the baby and allow the crying noises to start. Allow your dog to become interested, allow them pay attention, and once they lose interest, praise. If your dog does become too distressed, then you might want to go back to turning the volume of the baby down, the baby crying down, and gradually increasing it to a level where they can cope. So we'll see how Daisy responds. No. No, baby. And you can treat the doll like you would treat a baby. No, good baby. Good baby. No. Good baby. No. Yeah, good baby. No. Good girl, Daisy. Good girl. Good girl. Now, because she is starting to pant, it's showing us that she's finding this a little bit strange and unusual. But as long as she doesn't become distressed or too interested, we'll allow her to continue until she calms down. Good girl, Daisy. Good girl. So, what we're doing here is we're making the baby crying become more or less background noise. So the dog doesn't really think that it means anything to the dog. They don't really need to get interested. I haven't shot up. I'm not running around with a real baby trying to soothe them. So I'm calm, which is helping the dog then remain calm. So doing this before the baby comes home means that obviously the dog becomes familiar with us fussing over a baby and the baby crying without the added stress of mum and dad being stressed or a frantic movement around the house. So doing this beforehand helps the dog become prepared. And while we're doing this with the doll, we're showing the dog that this crying does come from this little teeny tiny person, but it doesn't mean anything to you, so you can lose interest because we don't need you here. It also means that we now have the dog becoming familiar with both the sight of the baby and the sound of the baby. And again, we can use our treats to get the dog used to the baby smelling good. And then when the nappies are ready, when the baby is born, bringing the nappies home. So adding the sight of the baby, the smell of the baby, and the sound of the baby all together after you've slowly built them up one by one. Allow the dog to slowly learn that none of this means anything to me and I don't need to panic. Once your training's going well and the dog no longer has any interest in the doll, I want you to move on to the next step where you'll put something like a fist of treats into the doll's nappy. And the reason you're doing this is when your baby comes home, the most interesting thing to your dog will be the smell of your baby's nappy. Dogs are obsessed with dirty nappies. I've had several dogs eat several dirty nappies, which isn't fun and isn't pretty, but obviously it's a rich smell and they really enjoy the smell of baby poo. So by getting your dog used to the doll smelling a little bit like food around their bum, it'll help you prepare for how you respond when the dog gets interested. And it'll also make things a little bit more realistic for you, insofar as the dog may start becoming a little bit more interested and obsessed with the doll. And what you want to do then is once the dog again loses interest, loads of praise. You can give them treats then if you want as well, once they lose interest in the doll, especially when there's treats in the doll's baby grow. So, same thing again. Let them say hello. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. So calm praise. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. So she's being very good, she's waiting for her treat. But you will have dogs that will then become that bit more interested in sticking their nose into the baby to try and get that nice smell. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Now, good girl, Daisy. Good girl. So once they do an appropriate behaviour, such as lying down on the ground, obviously they get lots of praise then because that's what you want to see. You want your dog to be nice and calm around the baby, whether it smells of food or not. When you're doing this training again with your baby, when you do bring your baby home, it's vital that you make the transition from doll to baby as smooth as possible. So to do that, what you do want to do is you do want to initially pair the doll with the crying noises, and then you also do want to pair the doll with the smell of the baby's nappy for the first couple of days that the baby is born and hasn't come home. So don't be embarrassed, but do ask the nurses, can you take home the dirty nappies, or just pop them in your jacket and take them home. Come home, and then dad or whoever is at home can do the exact same exercise, except this time the dirty nappy will be tucked into the doll's baby grow. So that's where your dog will then get used to the smell of the baby, And again, bring home the blankets, bring home the baby clothes that have been worn and dress the doll in them. And you can also get the dog used to the sound by playing the baby crying audio every time you're moving around with the baby. Once you have paired the sound of the baby crying with the baby in the car seat and your dog no longer cares about that, it's time to make that a little bit more realistic once again. So we'll pair the sound of the baby crying with the sight of the doll, with the movement of I'm going to start pacing around with the baby to try and soothe her. Good girl, Daisy. So she hasn't gotten too interested, which is great because she's a well-socialised dog that isn't too fazed by strange things. So we'll do another demonstration with Hamish as well, who is going to be that little bit more excited. Hamish will make mistakes, but it's a great way to show you the mistakes that will happen and how to respond to these mistakes and practicing with the doll. So Hamish is much more likely to jump and much more likely to find the sound of the baby crying exciting. So we're going to watch how he responds. If he jumps, we'll go back to our basic training, we'll turn our back and ask him to sit. If he becomes too aroused and too wound up, we'll stop the crying and just have the movement. And if he does stay interested but eventually calms down, we'll give him lots of praise for that. So we'll get started. Now Hamish. Good boy. Hamish. Good boy. Sit. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. And now he's lost interest in it already. So this was his first time of getting to hear the baby crying and the moving around. And even though he is quite an excitable dog, he did calm down quite quickly. So it just shows you that if you do the training beforehand, your dog will learn how to behave appropriately in those kind of situations. So if you have dogs that you think might be a little bit nervous of the sound of the baby crying, or they've had a negative experience with that in the past, best off to start off with the baby crying sound on the lowest volume, and then if they remain calm, you can gradually increase the volume. So they hear it and they're aware, but they're not reacting. Once you start purchasing new items, like your buggy or your mobiles or car seats, anything that's new to the household that belongs to the baby, you want to get your dog used to that now when it's no big deal, instead of all of a sudden the day the baby comes home there's new buggies and car seats and all sorts of strange things going on in the house. So every time you bring something new home, open it up and allow your dog to just sniff around it. If it is something that does move, make sure that initially when the dog becomes comfortable with it, it's not moving. So just put it on the floor and allow them to investigate. If they start to act like it's a toy or become too interested in it, call them away. Allow them go back then and sniff it again. And again, they become too interested, call them away. Eventually they'll stop becoming too interested, because when they become too interested, they have to go away. So, now guys. So if it is something that is going to move, once they become bored of it sitting in the corner of the room, you can start making it move. So once the dog has become used to the buggy being in the corner of the sitting room, very gradually get up and start moving it slowly until your dog calms down and loses interest, and move it faster and faster and faster. You can do that with every item that's going to become mobile or make noises. Start off with the volume slow and gradually increase it. Good boy. Once he took his attention off the rocking chair, I then praised him because I want him to not care about it. Now we can increase it again. He's still lost interest, so that's perfect. And you can repeat this exercise several times with each item until your dog really does lose interest. What's also really important to do is to get your dog used to the behaviours you'll be doing when the baby comes home. So sitting on the armchair with the baby, you're going to be sitting differently to how you would normally sit. So allow your dogs to become familiar with seeing you holding the baby, maybe getting up off the couch that bit slower, talking to the baby, all the kind of stuff that you will be doing when the baby comes home, you want to be doing now. And you want to teach the dog to lose interest. At the moment, I'm happy enough with this behaviour because she's just looking for comfort and attention. She's not looking to engage with the baby. If you're not comfortable with the dog being close when the baby's around, this is what you need to do. You need to continually step into their personal space every time they come too close to the distance you're comfortable with, and eventually the dog will learn to stop coming within that distance when you're holding the baby because they'll get moved away. So we'll do it now with Meg. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. It'll take lots of repetition until the dog actually understands they're not allowed to come within that distance. And if you have a dog that's used to being right beside you the whole time or being constantly attached to you, it's really important to do this exercise now because you don't want the dog to associate the new baby's arrival with all of a sudden his luxury is being taken away. So dogs don't become jealous of babies, but they do learn to associate that this change has caused other, unwanted changes in the dog's life. So now she's staying at a safe distance that I'm happy with, so I'll praise her. Good girl. No, good girl. Going up. Going down. Up. Let me stop. If you have a dog that normally shares the couch with you, it's vital that you change that rule now, because dogs shouldn't have access up on the couch when the baby's young and small and vulnerable. So every time they get up on the couch, simply just tell them to get back down. And it's tedious and it's exhausting, but you have to do it. And do it with the baby doll in presence, so the dog is learning to associate, okay, when the baby's on the couch, I'm not allowed on the couch. So, Hamish, get down. Good boy. And you can get up and walk away, and if they jump up again, Hamish, get down. Good boy. You can also put something that they want up in the cage to encourage them to jump up, and that way you can tell them that they're still not allowed to get up. Good boy. If they don't get up, then obviously praise them and give them what they wanted in the first place. Good boy. So we spoke in the training section about crate training your dog, where we teach your dog to like going into their bed and feeling safe and having somewhere that you can put your dog securely when you're distracted. Now what's a really good tool to do is to train your dog now that when they hear the baby crying, they should automatically go to bed. What that means is when the baby does come and you are stressed and distracted, your dog will potter off to their bed and they'll be out of sight and out of your way. So to do that, what you need to do is every time you play the baby crying, tell your dog to go into bed and give them a treat. So, into bed. Good boy. And he learns to go into his bed. So you repeat that until your dog will automatically hear the sound and go and get into their bed. Hamish. Into bed. Good boy. Good boy. Hamish. Come on. Good boy. Come on out, Hamish. Yeah, good boy. Come here. Hamish. Good boy. Sit. Good boy. The more you can ask your dog to do basic training like sits and give the paw and all that, the better, because it means your dog's thinking and doing the appropriate behaviours. Into bed. Good boy. Come here. Hamish. Into bed. And keep repeating. Once you've done it one day and you've repeated until the stage that your dog is hopping into the bed on the sound of the crying, then you want to repeat it on several different days, in different rooms, different situations, so that your dog knows the whole time, every time they hear the crying, they should go into their bed. Into bed. Good boy. It's just going to help you make your life easier when the baby does come. And it'll give you something to do to increase the bond between you and your dog and increase the amount of behaviours that they understand to do. Good boy. So again, the other important thing, as I was saying, is to remember to teach your dog to get used to you acting differently. So do walk around and maybe get up slowly or make funny noises just to get the dog used to you being different. So I'm imagining at the moment you don't pace up and down your sitting room, so now's the time to get used to that. And again, wait for them to lose interest and praise. The worst thing that you can do is rehome your dog if their lives haven't become, say, substantially worse. So if you normally take your dogs for 2 or 3 walks a day, and now once the baby comes, you know it's going to cut down to 1 walk a day, or maybe only 2 walks in 3 days, that's not the end of the world. Start making those adjustments now so the change doesn't occur when the baby comes home, and then make sure that those walks are fun. There's lots of other fun things you can do in the house, like playing with food out in the garden or putting their dinner into an empty milk bottle and allowing them play with the milk bottle to get their dinner out. Things like that to keep them busy during the day. YouTube is great for looking up fun mental stimulation games for your dog that you can do in 2 minutes that'll keep your dog busy for 20 minutes and will tire them out. Rehoming an adult dog after he's fallen in love with his family and has become part of the family, that can be really tough on your dog. So if it's not completely essential, don't feel like just because you don't have as much time as you did before that you're not a good enough dog owner. You love your dog, you're watching this DVD, so chances are, even if your time is cut down drastically, once you get the dog used to it now, your dog will still be more than happy to be part of your family. So make sure that you think twice before rehoming. The next tip is that dogs actually don't get jealous. So when people think that the dog is jealous of the baby, usually what the problem is that all of a sudden lots of not nice changes have happened around this new little thing, whatever it is. So people who don't prepare their dog will suddenly bring home a new baby and the dog suddenly starts getting in trouble or kicked out of the living room or doesn't get to have fun with mum and dad anymore. That's where dogs get upset and associate the new little baby as the cause of the upset because they are the new thing that pairs with the new experiences. So by watching this DVD and by getting stuck into the homework as soon as possible, you're preventing that from happening. So the changes will have occurred before the baby came home and your dog won't associate the baby with causing all these changes in its lifestyle. A common enough myth that people believe is that your dog is just going to love your baby because you love your baby. The dog does not know that the baby is a teeny tiny person. Think of it. The dog will think that the baby is a new squeaky toy. That's exactly what they look like, that's what they sound like. So it's really important that you do prepare your dog and get them used to the doll and used to the sounds and used to the sight and used to the smells before the real baby comes home, so that your dog doesn't think that all of a sudden there's a new toy. Your dog has already learned that this new baby looking thing means leave me alone, don't go near, don't engage. It's really important because your dog won't understand that the baby is part of the family. Another forgotten change that some people fail to prepare is, where does your dog travel in the car? So if your dog travels loose in the back seat, of course that's going to change when the baby comes, so the best thing to do is change it now. What I generally recommend is that the dog now travels on the foot of the passenger seat, so that you can even attach their lead to the passenger side door, so that your dog can't hop into the back when you're on a busy road and distracted. And it's a nice place for the dog to travel. They can get fresh air, they can see you, and they're still part of the family. So make those changes now. A big no-no is punishing your dog when the baby's around. Punishing your dog in general isn't a good idea anyway, because a lot of the time punishment leads to fear in the dog, and fear leads to aggression. So no punishment. But especially using punishment around the baby can possibly cause the dog to associate the baby with the cause of the fear, and the cause of the fear can lead to aggression. So it's a downward spiral, so just no punishment around the baby. If your dog does something inappropriate, turn your back on them or take the dog out of the room, but avoid anything that upsets or frightens your dog. Thankfully, your dog is undergoing a lot of training now from watching this DVD, and that's fantastic. Your dog will be prepared for your baby. But it's important to remember that most dogs that your baby will interact with, friends, family, neighbours, will not have gone through this DVD. So it's vital that you protect your baby from dogs that don't know what a baby is. And even if they have lived with babies in the past, you don't know how they'll respond to your baby. So if you are visiting a house with a dog in it, before you arrive, ask that they put the dog in a separate room. If they have a problem with it, just simply don't call over. Invite them to your house instead, where your dog is already prepared. There's no point in being polite and putting your baby at risk. So even if it sounds like you're being a fusspot or your friend's upset, tell them that I said so. One of the last tips, but one of the most important tips, is please avoid set up photos of your dog and your newborn baby. It's just silly. Dogs, practically all dogs, are afraid of cameras. It's a scary thing. It's one eye right into their face, and generally people get a little bit tense or start giving strange instructions when this camera comes out. So 99% of dogs don't like the camera. If you add the camera on top of the stress of having the newborn baby, which the dog isn't used to, in close proximity, you're asking for trouble. And thirdly, when you see those set up photo shoots in a studio where there's lights and strange people and a strange environment, that's really crazy. So if you do want your dog and your newborn baby in a photo when they're young, what you can do is have one person holding the dog on the lead, relaxed with a handful of treats, somebody else in the middle, and then another person with the baby. So you can have a nice family shot where the dog is enjoying himself because he's getting treats, and the baby's also in the photo, but you're not doing anything crazy like sitting the baby up on top of the dog or putting them in funny costumes and adding more stress. Just don't do that. It's silly and it's not worth the risk. Use Photoshop and just cut and paste. When we become overexcited, we get out of control. Think of a group of 10-year-olds running around at a birthday party. Not any rules, no control. They're going to go mad. They're going to trash the place. Or think of a group of 16-year-olds at a One Direction concert. They're not thinking straight, they're overexcited. They'll knock things over, they'll get into silly arguments. They'll do things they wouldn't normally do if they were calm and thinking straight. So when dogs are really excited, running around or jumping at the door when the doorbell goes, they're technically out of control. Whether you've got a Chihuahua or a Great Dane or something on a restricted list, it makes no difference. A dangerous dog is a dog that's out of control. If your dog goes out of control when the doorbell goes, or out of control when they're playing in the garden, they are then at risk. So avoid allowing your dog become out of control in the presence of your baby. When your dog is thinking straight, and when you're thinking straight, you're using the front of your brain, the cerebral cortex, which is where all your memory and intelligence and logic is. That's fine. A dog that will sit or lie down or perform basic tasks in front of your baby is thinking straight. A dog that's zooming around the place, or a person who's about to jump out of an airplane, is usually using their hindbrain, the cerebellum, where all the impulsive, emotional, reactive behaviours come from. So you don't want your dog emotional, impulsive or reactive around your baby. So ensure at all times your dog is calm and thinking when they're with your baby. If you're unsure and you want to check, simply ask your dog to sit or give the paw something they understand, and if they don't perform it, they're not under control and they're not thinking straight. So separate the dog and the baby. Finally, last tip, and listen to it, enjoy it. Once you've watched this DVD and you've done the work, you've been prepared, so enjoy the fact that you've now welcomed a new family member into your home, and enjoy the fact that your dog is now prepared and is ready to accept this family member too.